Welcome to Instructional Design Principles in Distance Learning. This is my Prezi. This is by Jason Kleber for GCU. First design principle we want to talk about is communication. Student-teacher and student-student versus student content. Traditional distance learning often had communication between the student and the content. We're going to talk about some tools for communication, and a design principle that needs extra focus in modern distance learning with the technology that's developed to allow student-teacher and student-student communication to grow to a level of face-to-face interaction, whether it's in a complete distance environment or a blended environment. The rationale behind this is effective communication can pose a challenge in a distance learning environment. Without face-to-face communication and body language, understanding is left to text, posts, or emails, and often people have their information misread or misunderstood. Enhancing communication through the use of video personalizes the learning environment, connects students and teachers, and improves the culture, all by design to maximize learning result. Some examples of tools that you can use for the, or some examples of methods you can employ would be video web conferencing, which would be considered one teacher and multiple students or multiple students together, so it's really a group of students working together. Then you have one-to-one video chatting or video conferencing. This is a one-on-one dialogue. And then webinars, where you have the video component but also you have a slideshow or information being presented at the same time. And then vlogs, which would be much like our discussion forums but in a video format where you get to see and hear the individual and you can read their body language, and there's a little bit more emphasis on the, even though it's asynchronous, it's still that face time that's available to build understanding and culture between students or teachers. Some samples of tools that can be used. GoToMeeting is a paid site. Google Plus Hangouts. A lot of schools that are using the Google apps have access to Google Plus Hangout. It's free to host web conferencing. You just have to be careful with students in obviously a social environment. Skype is very well known as a great method for video conferencing. Google Drive has video chat connected to the docs. Most people don't know this, or to Gmail rather. Most people don't know this. You can enable video chat, and so you can have students who are working on a project together have one-to-one student-to-student communication in a live video way rather than just on a document. Yugma allows free source for hosting webinars. Anymeeting.com, also a great teacher resource for hosting webinars. These include video and informational components such as slides. Adobe Meeting also is a great source. Adobe Meeting allows, in its free version, a one-to-one screen sharing. So not only do you have a video chat, there's also a live written chat, and two students or a teacher and a student can share a screen together. So a teacher could go over a lesson or an assessment, be it a written document or a Web 2.0 creation. YouTube obviously is a great source for hosting vlogs, and Vimeo. Google Videos also is a nice place to post vlogs because then you can embed them in other Google apps without a firewall blocking it, and then of course TeacherTube as well. And here's a look at Google Plus Hangouts. You'll see virtual host meetings. It's a great way to get multiple people together for free. Also, this is just a screenshot to show you that I have a video chat enabled with a fellow GCU student. So it is a great way for students, one-to-one to communicate visually. And also Anymeeting. Of all the webinars I've looked at, this is kind of my favorite right now because it does have a lot of free items for teachers that really make it, I think, one of the better ones out there. And then finally, the research. All types of instruction require dialogue. Learning is sharing. Most learning occurs in communication between students and instructors and among students themselves. And that's the key thing. Students themselves, especially in a postgraduate community like we're at, there's just the collegial factor. Really, there's a lot of transfer of information between students. And that is a key thing that with distance learning that needs to be embraced and needs to be brought out through instructional design. The factors provide development of a model that they were working with in this research, and the teaching model requires person-to-person interaction, or as they say in business, point of sale is where you must have power and impact. So the focus on this really was that the communication, especially the visual communication, enhances everything else in the curriculum and the experience. And then Smith, video communications embedded in high-speed networking, which enables interaction to move beyond learner-to-learner content towards learner-to-learner interaction. Again, moving away from the old model to a newer model of collaboration and communication. And it's creating that face-to-face community. The next component we want to look at is instructional design principle is tasks involving higher order thinking skills. Very important to look at moving it up Bloom's ladder in distance learning. And the rationale for this is as technology and Web 2.0 tools expand, there's really no reason for distance learning to follow kind of the old model, which was a lot of reading comprehension modules with multiple choice tests. There's so many Web 2.0 tools out there. There's a lot of fairly reasonably priced software that allows for the analysis, the evaluation, the synthesis, those higher order skills. A lot of the learning management systems also support that through the forms. So use of comprehensive rubrics are a great way to employ higher order tasks and allow distant education to reach different learning modalities at the same time and offer really truly authentic learning and assessment opportunities. Next, we're going to look at some examples of this, presentations. Multitude of presentations. We're going to look at some examples here in a second. Collaborative wikis, I've found at GCU to do this to be one of the more valuable tools for communicating and creating something where as a group we would analyze, we would synthesize, and then we would create something that presented our processing and gaining information. Digital storytelling was a wonderful component as well, and something that is employed in a lot of classrooms with all of the Web 2.0 resources. Definitely something that could be part of distance learning, where again they're analyzing, evaluating, creating problem solution discussion forums. A great resource. We've had some wonderful ones throughout the GCU experience thus far, where we are presented with a genuine problem that we have to research, we have to find solutions for, and we have to share those solutions and the research, and it creates this environment where the discussion is not just simply posting a response to something or an opinion, but actually solving a problem and going and looking for the answers and then sharing that answer. And then student-created websites. I think it's very valuable for students to not only gain some NETS ISTE standards through this, but also it's just a great way for them to include multimedia, to include text, to include blogs, discussion forums, and really have the choice as they create a website to envision it how they see fit. Some sample tools to use for that. Prezi, which we're looking at right now, makes these wonderful visual presentations. Google presentations also, although they are very similar to PowerPoint, they do have a lot of abilities that PowerPoint doesn't. The collaborative notes that can occur between people working on them. The fact that you have 3 or 4 people from all over the country working on one presentation at the same time. The ability to embed YouTube videos. Glogster also is a great source. We're going to look at an example of one of making interactive posters that also can have video, text, pictures. Wikispaces, YouTube obviously for hosting some digital stories. Story Center is also a great resource. We're going to look at a picture of that really gives models for what a digital story should look like. Podcast.com is a great resource to have students podcast, have a place to both get information on creating podcasts and uploading. Blogger, Edmodo, these are great places to host discussions. Google Sites, Wix, and Weebly are great free website engines that can be used, and with Wix and Weebly include quite a bit of high-end multimedia. Here's an example of a Glogster. You can see a very dynamic product where students are synthesizing information, creating something. And then we have the Center for Digital Storytelling, a great resource for students to see what a digital story should look like, the kind of impact it can have, and give them a model to build from. And then, of course, Wix is a wonderfully visual website generator that is free for students to use and allows a really just engaging visual look that maybe Google Sites doesn't offer. And finally, the research. Certain design principles can guarantee higher order skills in distance learning. And there's a long list here of things that NOTRA goes through, from embedding learning activities in an overarching scenario, employing these rich learning activities using pictures, not text, whenever possible, embedding data that needs to solve problems in the learning context, really giving student authentic problems to solve, having students provide story resolutions, again, the digital story, or have them propose expert solutions, multiple links to concepts, knowledge from multiple perspectives, gathering multiple opinions, using active learning techniques, stimulate the collaborative process by presenting problems so complex that students must work together to solve them, support continual self-assessment, provide support at critical junctures to push student past current limitations, expose students to experts' performance, provide pairs of related stories, vignettes to learning, to establish transfer outside. And just these are tools that show through this research that high order skills can be employed successfully in the distance environment, and we can escape from the old reading comprehension modules. Finally, last thing I want to look at, design principle number 3, is modeling with visuals. Something that's very important in the distance environment, something now that really is being enabled with the technology that maybe wasn't there years ago. Visual learners, ELL students, and even the general students in distant environments really require increased visual models and examples to help bridge gaps in communication or understanding, because it presents tangible models through images, graphs, mind maps, screencasts, animated images that really allow students to connect to the curriculum, or connect to the problem to be solved, or to connect to the idea being presented. Visual models allow students to activate schema and attach concepts with images, so they then go back and they can connect prior experience or prior knowledge to some of these concepts and then build from there. Even the text-based concepts transfer more efficiently when students have a digital model to visually analyze and construct knowledge from, and understand this is what a graduate level work should look like, or this is what a successful high school science project should look like, or this is what a good essay should look like. The visual models give them something to look at, to construct image or to construct information from. Some great tools for this: examples, screencasts, great way to show students how to do something, how to navigate something, how to build something. Simulations are a wonderful tool, especially in the day and age where field trips are getting more difficult and costly. Simulations can virtually take students to museums, to other countries. Podcasts, again, can be educational based, and it can be an expert sharing information. Slideshows also, I think, are probably one of the more underestimated valuable tools, because it's connecting those images, and you can convey a lot of important information with a slideshow to the student in a teaching perspective, and they can convey that back in an assessment perspective. Media-rich websites also allow the student to be much more engaged with some of the learning management systems out there. Some are very static and very text-based, some are very visual. Certainly with the iPads and the like products, the visual models are definitely going to be the ones that students gravitate towards. And then embedded links to multimedia. Something that really is, instead of the old outline model, is really an interactive model of multiple choices for students to navigate to supporting images, video, graphs, whatever it may be. Samples of tools that you can use to do this in a distance environment is Jing. Jing is free, screencasting tool. Camtasia is a paid version of Jing, but offers a much higher tool set and not a very steep learning curve. Real Lives is a website we're going to take a look at that actually connects students to simulations in other countries by examining real lives around the world and different experiences. YouTube also is a great place for slideshows or podcasts. Smilebox, wonderful tool for creating slideshows, both for presenting information and for students with assessment. Discovery Education site is one of the more popular ones as far as a very media-rich environment connecting concepts visually. And then Google Sites is a way to allow you as a teacher to present information in a media-rich context as well. This is TechSmith, the maker of Jing and Camtasia. Again, Jing is free, very efficient tool. Camtasia is a little bit higher end, so if screencasts fit into your particular subject matter, it's a really great way to create visual models to show students how to do something. From everything from constructing a paragraph to rebuilding a carburetor on a piece of equipment. Screencasts can do that with embedded video or just showing them how to navigate a website. Next, Real Lives really gives, again, that simulation, the students a chance to experience something outside of their reality. Also with this, Google Earth has some wonderful tours embedded in it as well that can really create some wonderful simulations for history class or for geography. And Smilebox, one of my favorite tools. Smilebox really creates just dynamic. I mean, we only see one of the few of the hundreds of pre-built slideshows they have that are great because they're visually dynamic. It's all embed code, so it doesn't require a lot of server space. And the wonderful thing is students can pick what fits the curriculum for them, and as teachers we can pick what fits what we need to present. It can be photo based, it can be video based, it can be scrapbooks, it can be slideshows, collages, but it's a real great way to attach text and images and present it in a way that's accessible. Can be embedded in blogs, can be embedded in Facebook, on Edmodo, or in Google Sites. And the research using these methods, abstract or hard to understand concepts, can be illustrated visually and graphically while a student experiments with random samples from a population with known parameters. I mean, the visual model really gives them a framework of understanding to work with. Screencasts can be used to supplement teaching materials or as an insert to email inquiries from distant education students, although often used for library tutorials, which are valuable. And by library, we're talking about a set of tutorials that you may have for your students to just walk them through navigating your distance learning site. If they're very unfamiliar with the LMS, this will be a great way to just give them simple navigation tools on how this works. And then from there, once they're comfortable with that, you can explain greater concepts and go into greater depth, navigate websites, and do so much in presenting information to students that way. And it's nice because they can play it back again and again and have that resource to draw from. And then finally, some of the research listed here, all journals from the GCU library. These resources, I'll leave the screen up for a second so you can pause it and go through and check this. But the main message that I want to send through this presentation is that although distance learning does offer some challenges that are unique because we do not have that face-to-face interaction, if we focus on communication and the tools that are out there to transcend just asynchronous, words and responses at different times, if we use video, if we use chat rooms, if we use these tools, we can really connect students to each other and to the teachers. And then, of course, higher order skills should be the goal of any learning environment. And finally, the modeling and the visuals are something that a few years ago may have been difficult for the distance environment, but now with so many tools out there and so many of the LMSs really embracing the visual aspect, we can provide meaningful models for our students, and then they can even use it to provide authentic assessments back to us. This concludes the presentation, and thank you for watching.